All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into the pretty wild story of an app that's trying to do something, well, incredible. We're talking about putting every single law in the entire United Kingdom right into your pocket.
Just think about that for a second. The power of that promise. Total access to the rules that run a whole country, right there on your phone. I mean, that's a seriously bold, ambitious idea, right?
And yet, we're not just talking about a handful of laws. This is a massive digital library. Over 128,000 different pieces of legislation. But, what's it actually like to use?
Well, that's where things get complicated. This review from back in 2019 kind of gives you a hint. The app's sitting at a pretty modest 3-star rating. So, what's the real story here? To get it, we've got to first understand just how ambitious this whole thing is. Okay, so first up, a library in your pocket. Let's really try to wrap our heads around the scale of this thing, because trying to cram a whole country's laws into an app, well, it's not just a tech problem, it's a massive historical one too.
The sheer amount of stuff in here is just staggering. It's all organized into 23 different categories, and the timeline is just wild. We're talking acts of the English Parliament from way back in 1267, all the way up to modern rules from today, including acts of the Scottish Parliament. It's just a huge undertaking.
So the big question is, how on earth do you fit centuries of law onto a phone? Because this isn't just a bookmark to a website, not at all. The tech behind this is actually pretty clever, especially when it comes to being online versus offline.
It uses this really smart two-part system. On one hand, you can download the entire library. It's a compressed 600 megabyte file, so you can have it all offline. Perfect if you're in a courthouse or on the tube with no signal. But on the other hand, if you are online, it acts as a fallback and pulls the latest up-to-the-minute documents straight from the official government website, so you're always covered.
And this offline mode, it's not just, saving a few pages you looked at. No, it's a whole process. It downloads this massive organized database and then unpacks it right onto your phone, kind of like opening a digital shipping container. That's the secret sauce to having real, full legal access, no matter where you are.
All right, so who's the brain behind this whole operation? You'd think it's got to be a government agency, right? Or maybe some giant tech company? Well, the answer is probably not what you're expecting.
First things first, the app is super clear about one thing. There's a big disclaimer right there on its page. This is an independent project. It is not affiliated with or an official part of the UK government. And get this, the entire project is the work of one independent developer. His name is Washim Raihan Sunjil from WS Apps, and he's based in Bangladesh. He built the whole thing by pulling all the data from legislation.gov.uk, which is a public website run by the UK's National Archives. It's all open government data. And remember that review we saw earlier about bugs and crashes? Well, if you look at the developers' responses, you see this really clear ongoing effort to fix problems and make the app better. This isn't some launch it and leave it project. There's a real person behind this, working to keep it alive. So what does it all mean? What does it mean when one person from Bangladesh can take an entire country's legal code and just offer it to the world? This really gets to a much bigger idea, doesn't it? The idea of actually democratizing the law.
And you've got to wonder, who's actually using this? Well, the audience is super broad. You've got the obvious ones, right? Legal pros, law students, they need a quick reference. But then you also have researchers, academics, government workers, and even just regular citizens and journalists who want to understand the rules that shape their lives.
And that, right there, is the big deal. This is what it's all about. You're taking this super complex, often locked away legal information, and you're putting it into a free app that fits in your pocket. Tech like this can literally build a bridge between the giant, complicated machinery of government and the rest of us. It just makes the law more transparent for everybody. But this is where we hit the central problem of the whole project. It's this constant battle between this huge, grand ambition and the tricky reality of it all. So, the ambition? It's amazing. Free, total legal access for every citizen. A noble goal for sure. But the reality? It's a 3-star app with user reports of bugs and crashes. It's an ad-supported project run by one person. And that reality comes with massive challenges, especially with keeping it updated and running smoothly. That's why you see those mixed reviews. When you boil it all down, this app is just a really fascinating example of something called civic tech. And what's that? It's basically the idea of using technology not to make money or for fun, but to empower citizens and make society better. And this app, it's a powerful, even if it's an imperfect example of that in action. And that really leaves us with one last big question to chew on.
When we're talking about crucial public information, is a flawed but free tool, one built by a single passionate person, better than having no tool at all? It's a tough question, and it gets right to the heart of this whole civic tech idea. Something to think about. Thanks for joining this explainer.